Have you ever met someone like really looked at their career and thought, wow, how did they manage to do all that?
Yeah, like they've got their fingers in so many different pies, expertise all over the place.
Hmm.
It makes you wonder how one person can even learn all that, let alone actually do it.
Exactly. And that is what we are doing today, diving deep into the career of Professor Sanjay Deshmukh.
And you weren't kidding about deep dive. You gave me a whole curriculum vitae on him. It's huge.
It is. It's got everything, all his degrees and the jobs he's had, his research and publications, awards, the whole picture of this incredible scientist and academic leader.
Very impressive.
So, for our listeners today, we are going to try to break down this incredible career and find the most interesting parts so you can really get a sense of the impact one person can have across so many different scientific and educational areas.
Sounds good.
Think of it like your guide to the highlights of a really exceptional career. So, where should we even start with someone like Professor Deshmukh?
Well, I think the best place to start is with his education. That really lays the foundation for all the different things he went on to do.
Right.
So he earned both his MSc and PhD in botany, specializing in ecology, from Mumbai University.
Okay, so right away we have a strong background in the life sciences.
Exactly.
But that's not all. He also has 2 honorary Doctor of Science degrees.
Wow.
That's a pretty big deal. It shows how much he's contributed to science and society more broadly.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, and on top of that, he also has an LLB degree.
What a Bachelor of Laws.
Yeah, from Mumbai University. So he's got a really interesting mix of scientific and legal knowledge.
That's pretty unique.
It is. And those honorary Doctor of Science degrees, one was given by Ram Manohar Lohia Avad University, and the other by the University of Science and Technology, Meghalaya.
Wow.
And both of them really highlight his work in applying science and technology to improve people's lives, especially through sustainable development, and also his efforts to reform academics and administration at Mumbai University.
So they're recognizing both his scientific knowledge and his leadership skills.
Exactly. And here's another thing. Professor Deshmukh didn't just finish his PhD and then focus on one narrow area. He actually became a recognized PhD guide when he was quite young.
Oh, wow.
And not just in botany either, he was guiding doctoral research in environmental sciences, biotechnology, life sciences, all at Mumbai University.
Wow, that's impressive.
And he was also a PhD guide in geography at Ohio State University.
So he was supervising research across all these different disciplines really early on in his career.
Yeah, it seems like he always had this really broad interdisciplinary approach to science, and that probably influenced a lot of his later work.
I bet it did.
And those early academic experiences, they really seem to have set him up for the leadership roles he took on later in higher education.
It's a big jump going from supervising individual research projects to leading an entire university system.
It is, and the one he led was the University of Mumbai, one of the oldest and largest universities in India, with over 900 affiliated colleges. And get this, over 9 lakh students.
Wow, that's a huge responsibility.
It is. Imagine trying to manage a university that size.
Yeah, talk about a challenge.
And during his time as vice chancellor, he really focused on making things more transparent and introducing global best practices. You can really see his vision for modernizing and improving the university.
So many students.
Yeah, and he didn't just want to keep things as they were. He really wanted to improve things for the students, especially when it came to their skills and employability, because you know how important that is these days.
Absolutely.
So he launched 69 new academic programs, and many of those were specifically designed to teach practical skills.
That's fantastic.
And they also redesigned the syllabi for over 380 existing programs to meet international standards. It was a massive undertaking that would impact so many students.
That's really thinking about their future.
And then there's the financial side of things. During his time as Vice Chancellor, Professor Deshmukh helped to raise around 900 crore rupees in developmental grants.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
It is. This was part of a bigger plan, a 3,200 crore rupee master plan to really grow and develop the university.
So he was not only a leader, but also a really successful fundraiser.
Yeah, you need that kind of money if you want to implement big changes and improve the university's infrastructure.
For sure.
And on top of all of that, he was also the acting vice chancellor of S&DT Women's University for a time.
Oh, wow.
And he was really involved in the NAAC accreditation process.
The National Assessment and Accreditation Council.
Yeah, he was involved both for Mumbai University, which achieved an A++ grade.
That's amazing.
I know. And he was also an NAAC assessor himself, so he was really dedicated to making sure higher education institutions were of a high quality.
It sounds like he had a lot of different perspectives on higher education, from leading a large university to assessing the quality of other institutions.
Exactly. And now let's talk about his research, because this is where his scientific knowledge really comes through.
Okay.
So he has done field research in over 50 countries across all kinds of different ecosystems. We're talking about a truly global research footprint.
Wow, that's incredible to think about all the different environments he's worked in.
And it wasn't just visiting these places, he was collecting data, making observations, really getting a deep understanding of how these ecosystems work.
Yeah, that's so important, especially with all the environmental challenges we're facing today.
And one of his most important areas of research was mangrove ecosystems.
Mangroves are so crucial.
They are, and his research actually led to the creation of a global network for conserving mangrove genetic resources.
Wow. So he didn't just do research, he also turned it into action.
Exactly. He saw a problem and he worked to find a solution.
It's great.
And here's another interesting thing. He developed a hotspot strategy for conservation planning based on his research on sacred groves in Maharashtra.
What are sacred groves?
They're forests that are protected for religious reasons, and his research on them actually helped him to figure out how to identify areas that are really important for conservation.
I see.
And this strategy, which he co-originated with Professor M.S. Swaminathan, actually ended up generating over 500 million US dollars for conservation efforts worldwide.
That's incredible to think that research on sacred groves in Maharashtra could have such a global impact.
I know, it's amazing. And in total, he's secured nearly 170 million rupees in research grants. That's funded over 200 publications. And he's also mentored tons of PhD students, postdoctoral researchers, and pool officers.
Wow, he's been busy.
He has, and it shows how dedicated he is to both doing his own research and helping to train the next generation of scientists.
That's so important.
It is, and he hasn't just been focused on research and academia. He's also been very involved in policy and consulting. He's worked as a scientific consultant and policy advisor to all kinds of national and international organizations, including the government of India.
So he's been using his scientific knowledge to help make real-world decisions.
Exactly, and that's really important if we want science to actually make a difference.
It is.
For example, he's been a member of several key committees within the Ministry of Environment, Forests, and Climate Change, like the Forest Advisory Committee, the Expert Appraisal Committee, and the National Wetlands Committee.
Those are all really important bodies.
They are. They make decisions about environmental policies and regulations that affect all of us.
So he's been right at the heart of these discussions, using his scientific knowledge to inform these policy decisions.
Yeah, and one of the big things he's advocated for is making sure that the value of the environment is considered when planning development projects.
Oh, that's crucial.
It is, and it seems like his work has actually helped to make that a more standard part of the approval process for major projects.
So he's made a real difference in how we approach development.
And it's really inspiring to see how committed he is to community development, too.
Tell me about that.
He was a leader in the NGO Konkan Nisarg Manch Konim. Yeah, and they had this really cool approach called Lab to Land, where they used scientific knowledge and technology to improve the lives of people in rural communities.
So they were bringing science directly to the people who could benefit from it.
Exactly. And their efforts actually won them awards, like the Best Village Development Award for their work on bamboo reforestation and the Best Village Industries Development Project Award for their fruit processing units.
That's amazing.
It shows how you can use science to make a real difference in people's lives.
Really impressive.
And he's also won awards for his leadership in higher education, like the Exceptional Performance Vice Chancellor Award. And earlier in his career, he won the Talented Scientist Award in the USA.
Wow. So his work has been recognized in so many different areas.
It has. And when you look at his areas of research interest, you can really see just how wide-ranging his scientific curiosity is.
I'm curious to hear about that.
So he's studied things like the impact of climate change on marine life, coastal and marine biodiversity, especially focusing on mangroves and seaweed.
Right. Those are some of his key areas.
Exactly. He's also done a lot of work on the conservation of genetic resources, again, with a focus on mangroves. But then he also delves into human biology.
Human biology.
Yeah, he's done research on cancer genetics and the neurological responses we have to sleep disorders.
So he goes from mangroves to the human brain. That's fascinating.
It is. And he's also interested in things like natural resources management, sustainable agriculture, the development of bamboo resources, environmental impact assessments of big projects, and even and institution building.
Wow. Sounds like he sees connections between all these different areas.
He does. And to give you an idea of just how global his research is, he's done fieldwork in over 50 countries.
50 countries.
I know we're talking India, the U.S. Central and South America, a huge chunk of Africa, Europe, including places like airfields in Bulgaria, West Asia, East Asia, Central Asia, Southeast Asia, and even Australasia.
He's been practically everywhere.
He has, and that kind of experience gives you a really unique perspective on the environmental challenges that we face globally. And then there's his publications. He's published a total of 225 different things.
225.
Yeah, it's not just articles in scientific journals either. We're talking books, monographs, reports, training manuals, policy documents, chapters in books from publishers like Springer.
Wow, that's a lot of writing.
It is. He's also given presentations at workshops, delivered important speeches, even contributed to budget speeches and perspective plans.
So he's communicating his knowledge to all kinds of different audiences.
He is, and importantly, he also holds a patent for an arsenic selective media.
What's that?
It's a way to detect arsenic in water, which is really important for public health.
Right.
So that's a really concrete example of his research actually leading to a practical application that can help people.
That's fantastic.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what do you think are the key things for our listeners to take away from Professor Deshmukh's career?
Well, I think it's clear that he's incredibly dedicated to science, to higher education, and to sustainable development. And he's shown that through his leadership, his impactful research, and his work all over the world.
Exactly. And this deep dive just gives you a little taste of what one person can achieve when they really set their mind to it.
It's very inspiring.
It is, and it makes you think about the connections between all these different fields that he's worked in, from marine biology to human genetics, from community development to global policy.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder how these seemingly separate areas might actually be more interconnected than we think.
And how that kind of interdisciplinary thinking could be applied to other problems.
Exactly. It makes you think about how you approach your own work and how you view the world.
Absolutely food for thought.
Definitely.